Ben Domenech, good morning. I hope you watched the game.
So yes, I saw. I should say I didn't watch the whole game, but I caught that moment and most of it. And look, here's all I'll say about that. Hugh, I am very glad that in this moment you have something to talk about other than Cleveland Browns football.
That's true, because, man, I
coming out of
got
that
nothing
locker
there.
room.
I got nothing.
So,
No, I have a question for you from Congressman Mike Gallagher. I've got to get to one subject with you, so I got to get this done quickly. Ross Douthat and I always talk fantasy series. And, the fades get confused with the orcs, and sympathy gets confused with the ability to jump. They're like all these great fantasy series. They go for hundreds of books, and they eat up hours. Gallagher's afraid you're obsessed with dark and really mysterious fantasy worlds. What's he talking about?
well, I think he's projecting a little bit because we have bonded over the years over an affection for some really. It's kind of, I would say it's actually better than Game of Thrones. It's more of an action-packed kind of approach to the fantasy genre. And as kind of airline books go and that type of thing, it's a much more satisfying read than One More Thing churned out by a committee.
But
Joe
Ben,
Abercrombie
I've read
is
Wheel
kind
of
the king
Time.
the
I've
genre.
literally read them all, and they're all confused in my head now. Do you keep them straight? Because then they turn out a new one, and I don't know what series it's in.
No, it really requires you to have a devotion to it beyond what an adult should really do at this stage. So,
Oh, it got me through COVID. When I walked hours after hours, I just read these. There are 1,000 of these out there. All right, let me get to the serious stuff. It's not serious, but I need your help. My working theory is that Kamala Harris skipped ninth grade and cannot diagram a sentence. And I played Kamala clips for the first two segments of the show. To prove it, I want to play one from last night for you from the Univision Town Hall so you can both diagram it and tell me what it means. Cut 16.
So my pledge to you is that by the grace of God and hopefully with your support as well, when I am elected president, I will bring back that border security bill and I will sign it into law and do the work of focusing on what we must do to have an orderly and humane pathway to earn citizenship. And one of the biggest problems with failure to have a comprehensive plan for immigration is that we have not given them the pathway to earn their right to citizenship. And that is, again, that is one of the priorities for me, frankly, in terms of my motivation for what I know we must do. And I think
Ben,
it's...
I think that's one sentence.
I think
It's
it's
possible
one
it's
sentence,
two.
and my left eye is twitching slightly as I'm attempting to follow that convoluted outline. Look, she has had a run here of what ought to be easy wins. A cupcake schedule of conversations with media members who are naturally very friendly to her and to her interests. And what we've seen is that this cupcake schedule looks more like a gauntlet. And it's not because they're asking tough questions. They're asking obvious questions. This is, by the way, the thing that people are missing about this whole 60 Minutes interview and why it was such a debacle is that none of those questions were tough. They were not particularly gotcha questions. They were not questions that she shouldn't have been able to anticipate. Instead, they were pretty obvious and straightforward. The only issue was, of course, that Bill Whitaker kept asking them and pressing her on these things, and she didn't have an answer, and that was very well in evidence. So, I mean, it's a terrible situation, I think, for her that this was supposed to be something where she comes out looking like, a top 5 team in the coaches poll. And instead, she's, basically, she's lost to App State. She's dropped one to Louisiana Monroe, and suddenly it's all of these cupcakes have made her, really exposed for how weak of a candidate she is.
No, she's Toledo playing the opener with Ohio State. It's Akron this year. A MAC team always plays the opener. Ben, my first proposition is she skipped ninth grade. My second alternative theory is that they don't teach diagramming sentences in Montreal. Why can't she deliver a speech? Why are there not punctuation marks? Where is her team to teach her how to do this? I am trying to illustrate it's on the screen right now, what a sentence diagram looks like. Do you think she can diagram a sentence?
I mean, I think that to your point about the Montreal thing, perhaps they don't have it up there because they would consider it rude. And of course, the Canadians are very polite. And by the way, I don't know if you saw Pierre.
I played it. It was fabulous.
Fantastic. People in America, politicians in America, should look to him and learn from him in terms of the way he deals with questions like this. But to me, when you look at what is coming out of this media moment for her, it's a real lack of confidence. A lack of confidence that is detectable among Democrats, one that really shows her not to be the kind of generational political talent that they had pretended that she was throughout the summer and in the relief of her elevation. But now they're stuck with her, and they're basically seeing her do all the things that led her in 2019 to lose before a single vote was counted. And that is that she's both too online, too cautious, too far left for the center-leaning, independents, and too far, in a certain sense, authoritarian for some of these progressives. And that's something that I think, if she was smarter, she could lean into it. And one of the things that I think she could have done is make some distinctions when it came to Joe Biden that were basically about critiquing him the way that you would a grandfatherly figure. Saying something like, when she's asked the question, how are you different than Joe Biden? She could say something like, well, maybe he's been a little too loyal to some people who came up with him. Maybe he's been a little too loyal to
That's elegant. That's elegant. That would have been good. Now, I have a question, Ben, and we only have 3 minutes. If you were her senior advisor, and I think the bottom is falling out, I really do. After this horrible, terrible, no good week, the bottom is going to fall out on Team Harris. And you need to plug the holes in the boat. I would recommend she seek me out and Guy Benson. I think we are the two nicest people in broadcast that are conservative, that will give her a long form and will not interrupt her, because she has to do an obstacle course now that's a real obstacle course. Do you agree with that sort of advice, or do you have a better setting for her to go to? Because she can't go back to 60 Minutes, and she can't do Stephanie Rule again. She's got to actually do some moderately difficult but civil exchanges with people.
I think that that's something that would have been wise for her to do perhaps even weeks earlier. And, one of the things, obviously, we both are on Fox. I'm a contributor there, and I think it was a mistake for Democrats this cycle to keep Fox at arm's length and to take cues from her about doing so. Do you think that it would have helped John Tester to go on Fox? Don't you think it would have helped Sherrod Brown to go on Fox? Don't you think that some of these people who, are in critical races across the middle of the country should be on the number one cable news network? And I think that the fact that they didn't do it, taking cues again from her and from this White House comms team, which has not covered itself in any kind of glory, I think that they're going to look back on that and say, hey, we just kind of ignored all these people, or we sent the message that they were deplorable, and they ended up holding us to account in a way that can't stand, in a way that has to.
Last question, Ben. She has accepted a CNN town hall. I do not think that does anything for her at all. Zero, even if she aces it. Do you?
Yeah, I don't think it's talking to a different audience. I don't think it's actually reaching into the kind of communities that she needs to. And the likelihood of her having another bumbling moment in which she goes through a diagram that requires you to basically write off the side of the page. It's the John Mulaney thing of, I made the letters too big at the beginning, and now they have to be super small.
That is exactly what she does. She goes off the page. Well, I'm right here and now saying if she calls me up, she's welcome here. I know Guy would welcome her. I know that Brett, I know that I know that anyone with a platform would welcome her and do so civilly. But I don't think she can do powder puff anymore. She's been bad at it. Do you feel the bottom's falling out, Ben?
If when you're taking, as Tim Walz did, questions from Michael Strahan and you can't handle them, yes, you've got a real problem. The bottom's falling out.
Amen to that. Ben Domenech. Follow him at Ben Domenech on X at B Domenech.